Today's episode is brought to you by the Tax Defense Group. Tax season is here, and that means that it's time to file. Instead of going through the hassle of using H&R Block, you can call the experts at the Tax Defense Group. They can handle your tax filing anywhere. Also, for a limited time, if you're a W-2 employee, you can save half off your filing. All you have to do is call the Tax Defense Group before April 15, 2020, and mention that you saw this ad on UCast Studios. Call the Tax Defense Group today at 800-850-7973. That number again is 800-850-7973, and you can visit them online at thetaxdefensegroup.com. And the other sponsor for today is Writer Junkie. Writer Junkie offers a resume writing service for the low cost for $145, and with only a 3-day turnaround, you can't beat that price and delivery time. Call Writer Junkie today at 805-587-7966. That number again is 805-587-7966, and you can visit them online at writerjunkie.com. Mention that you saw this ad in UCast Studios, and they'll get right to work. If you like our content, please check out the other shows on the UCast Studios network. Like this video and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can also listen to our content on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. Welcome to the Talk Spot. This is Marcus, and today I'm joined by Jonny Arnett. Johnny's a friend of the show. He's been on several times, and yeah, today we want to talk a little bit about the NBA 2020-2021 season and some of our predictions for it. So yeah, Jonny, thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you having me on, Marcus. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, a lot's definitely happened since last time we spoke. What are some of your thoughts for next season?
Well, it'll be interesting. I feel like this whole delay because of the beer bug is going to affect everyone differently. I'm hoping we can salvage some of this season. But if not, just this delay and this much time off, is this where rust starts to set in for certain players, like the veterans who've been around a little bit longer, like LeBron James being the biggest example? You know, I'd hate to see a decline in his play. Other teams where there's going to be, where the players are growing up a little bit, there's going to be more maturation. It'll be interesting to see like what the Pelicans are going to be like next year, because now you'll have Zion, who's more used to the team and team chemistry. Brandon Ingram's a restricted free agent, but assuming he was still with the Pelicans, like they could be a really nice, interesting team moving forward. So I see it just a couple teams moving, but I think generally speaking, who are some teams that you think might be moving a little bit heading into next season?
Yeah, so I was figuring out let's go with the Eastern Conference first, if that's cool with you. So as of right now, the standings in the Eastern Conference were the Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Heat, Pacers, 76ers, Nets, and Magic. So that's what the standings are right now in the East, and the Bucks were up 6.5 games. And I know that earlier in the season, the Bucks, they were like projected to maybe be a 70-win team, or at least 69 wins. But I think some people might have forgotten that towards the last games that the Bucks played, they actually lost a few. So they lost not only to the Lakers, but if the season was played out at the trajectory that the Bucks were on, they would have ended the season with 66 wins. I think for next season, I guess this is my predictions for the East. I kind of think that the Bucks, barring something happening or a major trade or Giannis moving, which I really doubt will happen at least this summer, I think it'll be Bucks number 1. And then really number 2, I think is the most fascinating team probably in the entire NBA next season is the Nets. So I have them being the number 2 seed in the East. Yeah, I think with the Nets, there's so many question marks for them because obviously, well, I guess the expectation is next season that Kyrie Irving and Durant will come back and they'll both be fine and healthy for the whole season. And I know that they fired their coach. So, yeah, there's so many unknowns. I mean, are they going to trade for a third star? Are Durant and Kyrie enough? Do you think it's realistic that the Nets could be the number 2 seed in the East next season?
The East has a lot of question marks up and down. I think the Western Conference is certainly more talented with the Lakers and the Clippers, and just going down from 1 through 8. The West is very strong. Now, the East, you have a lot of teams like the Celtics are inconsistent. The Heat surprised a lot of teams this year. Now, with the Nets, I think it's very realistic to see them as the 2nd seed because a lot of times when it comes to the regular season, talent wins out. And so even though they're lacking some of that chemistry, unity, they haven't really played ball together, just the fact that you're going to have Kevin Durant, who I expect to come back strong, with the way his game's played, the fact that he's still a shooter, like that's being 7 foot with that reach and with that range, that's not going to change, even if he's, coming off of an Achilles injury. And I expect them to win a lot of games. Even like in the loss column, the Bucks were killing it, but the Raptors were, 46-18 when the season was put to a stop. So it's not like they have to even win, 60 wins or even, 55 wins. They can have, just a little above 50 games won and be a second seed. So I definitely see the Nets being right in there in the mix. If
they were going to trade for a star, like a third star, who do you think it could be? Like, who would be the most logical choice, do you think, for them to go after?
I mean, a solid big, someone who could defend, protect the rim, and get a lot of boards. I'd have to look at the cap space situation. I know heading into free agency next year, Andre Drummond looks like he's going to be up for grabs. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be interested in re-signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So if they could get somebody who could really just get boards and protect the rim, they're certainly going to have the offense. I don't really see anybody who they could really trust in the long term in the playoffs to do that for them now. So if they could do that, that would be the area I'd focus on heading into free agency or possibly making a trade. What about you?
I feel like because I've thought about this a lot with Giannis, that if there was a team that was going to try to trade for him, it would have to be teams that would have enough after trading for him that they could still compete, right? And I feel like for some reason, maybe a Nets trade for Giannis, even though that might sound totally crazy, I feel like that would be really incredible to see if they basically offloaded everything, whatever, basically everybody not named Kyrie and Durant in draft picks. I wonder if that could be enough for Giannis, but that probably won't realistically happen. So with that being said, I feel like there's a great debate amongst Nets fans about what to do. And there's one guy that I talked to, and I've done some work with before, and he's a big Nets fan, and he's not really happy with the direction of the team, to say the least. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's so interesting. It's kind of the Nets in some ways are almost kind of like a similar position that the Lakers were a year ago. Yeah, the Lakers last year, they have all these young pieces in LeBron, and there's the idea of, okay, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to try to, basically just have LeBron and these young guys? Is that going to turn into something? Or should we trade all the young guys for a star and see what happens from then? The Lakers, obviously, they chose to get rid of the young guys. And I don't know, man. It's really fascinating with the Nets. I feel like that's a team that really intrigues me because I could see them being like a 50-win team. It's very meddling and very, filled with drama, and no one's happy, and Durant and Kyrie one of them is always injured and they barely play any games together. I could see something like that happening. I could see there being a lot of chemistry issues, but I could also see them totally firing on all cylinders and just looking like this amazing team. I definitely think that they have enough talent for sure to win the East next season, barring, Durant and Kyrie not coming back 100%. I really have to think about who they could go after.
They have a lot of weapons, as you were saying, a lot of talent. Spencer Dinwiddie's a good player, and obviously we're looking far off into the future. We still have to see what we're salvaging from this season, and if next season, if there isn't much player movement, they'll have Spencer Dinwiddie. Karis LeVert was killing it. He had like that 50-point game he had, earlier this season. So it'll be interesting to see if he can remain impactful offensively once you throw Kevin Durant back into the mix. Kyrie Irving's in there too. But they have the weapons. They look like a deep squad who would be ready to contend. It's just that chemistry question.
So I have for the third seed for next season in the East, I have the Celtics. I don't really think, to be honest with you, I know a lot of people have really jumped all over the Jason Tatum bandwagon and talking about how this guy is so amazing. Personally see that. I think he's a really good player, but I think that for the Celtics, we can talk about this kind of later on in the podcast too, about these teams that are they're almost like faux great, where they look like they're really good teams, but they're really not title contenders. And I certainly believe the Celtics completely fall into that category of probably next season. I wouldn't be shocked if they won 55, 56 games next season, but I really don't look at them as real title contenders. I really don't believe that they're better than the Bucks or the Nets, or the Nets are firing on all cylinders, or really even several other teams on this list. I just feel like with the Celtics, they're just incredibly reliable, and they're almost like the Eastern Conference version of the Nuggets. And once we get to the West, I could talk a little bit more about my thoughts about the Nuggets, but basically last season and this season, the Nuggets won 54 games, and this coming season, or the season we're in right now, they were on track to win 54 again. And I just feel like the Nuggets and the Celtics in a lot of ways are just really similar. I feel like they both have like a lot of talent, but there's no one that's like transcendent, like no one that's arguably a top like 5 player. And I feel like if you don't have a person on your team that's an arguable top 5 player, I just don't think that you are a real title contender. So I kind of put the Celtics there.
Yeah, I mean, with the Jason Tatum aspect, we've seen players who've made giant leaps from season to season in their progression. Brandon Ingram being a recent example of a player that people were really starting to, I think, give up on from his talent and how he was progressing. But that was also a change in atmosphere, a change in coaching, a change in team, literally. And so his career really surged. I just don't see – I see the talent, but is the hard work there? Is his game evolving as quickly as people expected? I'm not really seeing it. And throughout the NBA's history, you have to have superstars to win championships. You have to have superstars to be legitimate title contenders. And some people will bring up the 2004 Pistons team, that beat like the Lakers super team when they had Gary Payton, Karl Malone, Shaq, and Kobe. And they lost to like this collection of talent and defensive-minded players with the Pistons. But I don't even like that necessarily as a great example of a championship team without superstars, because I'm like, there was some high-profile players on that team. Whether it be, Ben Wallace is one of the greatest defensive players ever. Chauncey Billups was called Mr. Big Shot for a reason. He was the finals MVP and he was super clutch. And so, I mean, when I look at this Celtics roster, you have Kemba Walker, but do I see him as a guy who could lead his team to a championship? No. Do I see him as a guy who's going to be the difference in whether or not they make it to the finals? I don't. Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum. I do like Daniel Tice. Nobody's talking about this guy. He kind of came in and filled in for the center position as Enes Kanter was dealing with injuries last year, and he was killing it. If you look at some of his numbers, he was scoring, he was rebounding, and I caught a couple of the Celtics nationally televised games, and he's a nice addition. He really hustles and play hard. So again, a good overall team. I think 3, 4th seed, third seed to 5th seed maybe. But as far as actually seriously contending, I don't expect that. You have to have that alpha superstar player for me to take you seriously as a contender.
No, and I totally agree with you. And that's why, like, even in my list, I mean, basically 4 and 5, it's kind of the same story. I mean, so 4, I have Heat, and 5, I have Raptors. And really, I wouldn't be shocked if the Raptors, like you said earlier, I mean, the Raptors, they were the 2nd seed in the East as of, right now. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Raptors actually have a good regular season record, but I kind of think a lot of people have forgotten the pitfalls of the Raptors. I mean, they think because last season that they won the title with Kawhi, that all of a sudden they have now broken the curse. But really, for the last several years, I mean, the Raptors actually had a pretty good regular season record, and they would win a lot of games, and they were very feisty. I don't have really a lot of faith in this team. I just feel like there's a lot of decisions that are going to happen with the Raptors this coming season. I mean, you have Ibaka and Gasol that are free agents. I think Kyle Lowry only signed for one more season, so he'll be a free agent December 2021. I don't know. I could easily see them being the 5th seed. And yeah, for the 4th seed for the Heat, I have them there. So right now, yeah, they're the 4th seed right now, and I think they'll be the 4th seed next season because this is a lot of uncertainty. I mean, they have a lot of young guys on this team. They have Butler on the team, but it's really hard to know like where these players are going to be next season. And I know that the players on the Heat really get a lot of praise, and I hope that they all take, huge steps even further ahead, like Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. And yeah, I believe that they can all take another leap, but I don't know. I just kind of get the feeling from the Heat that I think maybe in the seasons of 21 to 2022. So basically, if we skip all of next season, I think they could be a really big powerhouse then, especially if they sign a free agent and if these younger guys even develop more. I just kind of think next season's a little bit of like a precursor. I don't know, maybe if you look at them almost like the 2013, 2014 Warriors, where you can start to see something really there, but it's a little bit, it's just a little bit early.
Yeah, and the Jimmy Butler X factor, you never know, like, how long is he going to be happy there? How long before, they're looking to ship him somewhere else? And so that's always kind of a wild card. I hope he's able to settle down, and they're happy with him in Miami. He's happy with his teammates. But Bam Adebayo is a beast, and I'm really excited to see how he's going to progress over the next couple seasons. He plays with hustle. He plays with heart. He plays mean. And they have talent on this team, kind of similar to the Celtics, though. Like we were talking about, is Jimmy Butler kind of in a similar position like Kemba Walker, a guy that you really think will take you to that next level? No, not really. But the talent's there, and they can be in the playoffs for the next several years with the roster they have. So they'll be interesting. Also, when you brought up the Raptors, Fred VanVleet, he's
that's right.
And so they might have a totally different roster. I love Siakam, but yeah, the DNA of that team could be completely different, just even as soon as next season.
I guess I would say the second biggest question mark team in the East is probably the 76ers. So as of right now, they were the 6th seed, and I also think next season they'll probably be in the 6th seed realm. I could see them being anything from the 3rd to the 6th seed in the East, but I don't know. I mean, I guess there's been so much conversation about the 76ers and all the issues they have and the fit between Embiid and Simmons and how they can actually get better and Horford and all this stuff. I just feel like the combination of all of those things plus Brett Brown, I could easily see them getting in next season and actually just doing well and getting to the finals. I could realistically see them getting to the finals because Embiid and Simmons are that good, especially Embiid. But on the same token, I could also see them getting bounced in the first round by like the Celtics, because as of right now, if the playoffs started today, they would play the Celtics in the first round. I'd love to see what the betting lines are for that, but I could definitely see them losing to the Celtics, and I could see them beating the Celtics in 5 games. It's such a bipolar team. It's really hard to know. And I mean, everybody and his mother has a take about the 76ers, but I guess what are your 2 cents about them?
Yeah, I have no confidence really in this team. Too many question marks to the point where I just feel like it would be hard for me to see them in the finals, if this season continued. Next season, either way, it'd be tough. I mean, Joel Embiid, let's hope he can, stay healthy for a playoff run, but his health has always been up in the air, so there's one question mark. Question marks with the coaching staff and with Brett Brown, and even some of these players, as you look deeper into the roster, like, it would be nice if, Shake Milton turns in to be something really solid. They picked up Alec Burks in the trade from Golden State. How's he going to be? So there's some potential there. But Ben Simmons still can't shoot for a lick. When you're playing in a 7-game playoff series and you have those weaknesses, they get exploited. Teams are able to make adjustments and they can, adapt to your play style, to your strengths and weaknesses. So this is just a very difficult team for me to put my trust in. And then you add everything we've talked about with the chemistry issues. I would be shocked, absolutely shocked if we saw them in the finals anytime soon, because I just don't see that. I don't see that winning culture around this team. Even though they have talented players, I don't see it.
I don't know, man. I feel like even though we have like those kind of ideas of, could you trade Embiid or Simmons? The fact that there's so much uncertainty about it, I think kind of like what you were saying, it leads to the fact of, I mean, how much do you trust him? Like what you were saying, how much do you trust him? And honestly, if you could make that trade, Harden for Embiid, he had to sweeten the pot, because obviously Harden's a better player than Embiid, but Embiid's younger, and maybe you say, okay, maybe Harden only has a couple years left in him. That would really be a fascinating team if you could see Harden and Simmons together. I digress, but yeah, I agree with you. Maybe the 76ers, maybe they pull it together, maybe they get a new coach, maybe they can become the 2nd seed in the East, but I think it's more realistic they'll probably be somewhere in the middle of the pack in the playoffs. And then, so my last 2 predictions I have Pacers and Hawks. So the Pacers, they have a lot of really good players and they have talent and the coach is good, and obviously their fans are really, adamant about the team and they really love the team, but I don't know. I just don't see it. I really don't. Like, I think Oladipo is a really good player and Sabonis is a really good player, and Miles Turner. I mean, these guys are all like really good players, but I don't think any of them could be the best player on a championship level team. And kind of like we spoke about a little earlier. So I don't know. I kind of feel like, so right now the Pacers, they're the 5th seed right now. And if the Nets are going to come up, then somebody has to move down. So I don't know. To me, it just kind of felt like I could see the Pacers being the 7th seed. And then for the 8th seed, so right now it's the Magic. And I predict, or I guess my thoughts are, I could easily see it being the Hawks. I feel like the Magic aren't necessarily like a really good team. And I feel like what's happening in the East is there's basically only 7 good teams, and then the rest of the conference isn't very good. I don't know. I just feel like the Magic are there kind of just by default. But I think next season I could easily see the Hawks getting a lot better. I could see Trae Young his talent and his abilities making the Hawks or bringing the Hawks to win more games. And I don't know, I can see the combination of everything with Capella being there. Yeah, the fact that they're going to have a high draft pick, the fact they have all these other guys. And I don't know, I just feel like I could see them winning 40 games, 41 games, and that being enough to be the 8th seed.
Yeah, I could see that. And it'll be interesting to see where Trae Young's at next year. There's positive culture around Atlanta now. There's positive energy. Because now there's this promise, Trae Young has brought that to the franchise where now there's reasons to be excited again about Atlanta basketball. And just the way that can invigorate and change a team's direction from year to year. The fact that they believe now that they could actually start winning, that this could be the shift in, the culture around them. So it'll be interesting. But again, a lot of these teams, I don't see any of these teams, whether it be the Pacers, the Magics, or the Hawks. We talked about not having that superstar player. I would even go further in saying that superstar wing player, because that's, I think, what it takes nowadays to have a championship, a legitimate championship contender. But they don't have that or quite the depth of talent like those top 4 or 5 teams in the East have. So I think that's a solid prediction for the Eastern Conference. But yeah, I don't see any of those teams breaking in. I don't see too many surprises in the East next year.
Yeah, no, and I mean, obviously there's the other teams. You look at somebody like the Bulls, and obviously right now they're in a lot of transition. And there was a report the other day about Lauri Markkanen wanting to leave the team. And I mean, again, talk about a team where it's just unfortunate where they have all these young guys that are talented, but just a combination of like poor front office or really bad front office, a horrible coach. And just, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you look at a team like a Bulls and I just feel bad. I feel sorry for Bulls fans and even for the team themselves. I mean, I almost wonder if the Bulls are just going to start just selling off players just because, they're not developing them fast enough, almost kind of like what the Knicks have done over the last couple of years where they had all these good draft picks that had all this promise, but then because they didn't fulfill the promise, then they just shipped them out. So it'll be interesting to see with a team like the Bulls and obviously the Knicks. I predict that they're probably still going to be crap. I don't know if they'll ever be good again, to be honest with you. I mean, there was even the reports that came out this last week or so that apparently a lot of players in the locker room didn't like Julius Randle. They said that I think it was that he held the ball too long, and I don't know, man. The Knicks are just a mess, and all the other teams in the Eastern Conference. I mean, I'm actually blanking on several of the teams. I just feel like the likelihood of them jumping into the playoffs, I don't really know. I mean, I think for that eighth spot, I could definitely see the Magic hanging around. Yeah, the Hawks, I think, are more likely to get in. But then, yeah, you look at other teams like Detroit. Could they maybe be the 8th seed next season? I mean, I guess it's possible. But the former Lakers, Steve Mikhailuk, or however you say his name, I'd love to see him get off that team and come back to the Lakers. I feel like that was such a under-the-radar, horrible trade that Magic Johnson made when we traded him for Reggie Bullock. Yeah, so I guess, if you want to get into the Western Conference predictions. We want to thank today's sponsors again, the Tax Defense Group and Writer Junkie. You can contact the Tax Defense Group at 800-850-7973. And Writer Junkie's phone number again was 805-587-7963.